Freeport to speak to a very significant occasion, homegoing service there. And I was mindful of the fact that they put my name in this program. And all through the service in Freeport, and when I got there, I asked the minister whether I could speak and read, and he said I could read after he speaks. And then when I landed, I asked who was speaking, and they said the Attorney General. And when I walked into the church, I asked who was speaking, and they said the Attorney General. So I'm going to explain to the audience that you thought I was coming and you were just holding a spot for me. But I'm here for an occasion to speak to the meaning and memory of the life of the Brother Hepburn, and to do so in a national context. I want to begin by saying that her family moved into a place that we popularly refer to as the Valley. A two-story building was built by Bishop Alvin and his family. And interestingly enough, the property opposite was owned by the Knowledges on Montreal Avenue, so they obviously followed one to the other. In fact, I don't know if anyone knows that. Then we should tell them. But the family was known to be the man who headed this cathedral. Ultimately, he became an icon in the religious fraternity of our country. But everything about his life became institutionalized for what it was. That ought to mean that we ought to do a better job at letting people know of Bishop Alvin. And the fact that he could have served for as long as 40 consecutive years. Interestingly enough, his daughter, Roberta, began her working career at the age of 18, working with her father. And the obituary would say that she served with him for 19 years, which meant that the working values developed in the context of the father's administration of the Church of God of Prophecy. His assignment was to lead a flock and to be an exemplar in his life for that religious grouping of prophecy. And his daughter, working with him, would have necessarily had imposed upon her as a form of her education all that Bishop Alvin was, all that the Church of God of Prophecy required in administration, which included dealing with people and being able to deal and come to understand how to relate to people. Then she moved into the real estate part of her professional life. And there she took with her all what she learned. And this is where she began to grow into being someone who was setting an example for women. She moved to a position where she became vice president of marketing and sales and printing books, like for she. And to become that, you have to be seen to be a powerful woman. And as we speak of equality of women, the point I want to make in tribute to Roberta was that at all times she demonstrated the strength of the Bahamian woman, the dignity of the Bahamian woman, a Bahamian woman who, as she ascended the administrative ladder, still knew that her primary obligation was to give her children the right way of upbringing. And then, interestingly enough, not to go out of the church. Because oftentimes, as we ascend in our professional career, the obligations of that career take first place, and the church takes second place. But to be able to not just keep up with the relationship we have with prophecy, administrative committees, but also to extend herself and her spirituality to Christian charity abroad. And to find time to do that, and to be seen to be doing that. Take it all together, she even had some politics in her. Now, she had a particular kind of politics which led her to support particular individuals in politics who she believed in, and to do a lot of meaningful work in that regard. And Alison may have spoken of her work in Yellow. But take that work and distill it to its bare essence. That work was about helping children, helping old people, providing a place for education, building a library, but meaningfully impacting through her contribution to that part of our country and this island, her contribution, and that was raising money. So when you ask, who was she? You are obliged to know that you go beyond a mother, beyond a working woman, but she was a woman who set a standard. And when women who knew that she would be sufficient for her daughter to say, I want to be like my mom. And other daughters the same thing. And when we measure the fullness of her impact, she, like her brother Jack, for the record, I have said on so many occasions to those who worship with this church that you have produced defining personalities that impact this country. And it's your duty to require the country to continue to recognize that, and to recognize the work you do that positively impact our civilization. My final point is that when I heard that Roberta was hospitalized, I went to see her maybe a day or two before she died. And I met her children, grandchildren, there at the bedside. family members. And I remember looking at her as she struggled. And I remember saying, that's it. Because what I saw was my mother lying in a similar bed before she died. My mother-in-law lying in a similar bed before she died. And it brought me back in that moment with loved ones around Roberta, trying to talk to her, trying to get her to know that the Prime Minister was at their side. And I knew that they would never know if she heard me. But it reminded me of this occasion when we come to solemnly pronounce that she is now dead. And I want to end the way that I spoke to in Bahamas, that I speak to on every occasion such as this. A reminder to myself and to each of you in this church that we too will die. And we share a common destiny with our departed sister. And that for all the good she did, all the love she gave, this verse describes the stark reality and finality of death from the book of Psalms. As for a man, his days are as grass, as a flower in the field he flourishes. For the wind passes over and it is gone, and the place thereof shall know it no more. And I use that verse to remind me of the need for my own faith, to understand what it means when it says, the place thereof shall know it no more. And Gaten and your brothers, members of the family, I always promise myself that I have to keep on believing that I could see my mommy again. And that I know the only way I could is through my own personal behavior and faith. And that nobody could give me that, no one could substitute that for me. That has to come from me. And that overriding desire. I got my father too, man. I don't mind that, but I don't see my mom. And that overriding desire for me happens to underlay and undergird the faith that is necessary. And I leave with the verse that I always use and I always recite to tell me that these things that don't seem possible when we use logic. And I use a verse from the book of Isaiah when thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. Through the rivers, they will not overflow thee. That trying to understand that is the power of God. Even through the fire, that will not be burnt. The flames will not set your kingdom. And I can logically say, the rivers won't drown me. The fire will burn me. I didn't know. To see my money again, this is what I think it is. I have to have faith that goes beyond logic and human understanding. Because the overriding thing we do here is that you want to see Roberta again. And that's that personal commendation I make. That this was a wonderful woman who made a defining contribution as one of the female exemplars of our country, ensuring that you could become a top executive in the company through hard and honest work. She did all those things while she nurtured a family and she kept as a princess of the church. God bless her. And on behalf of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, we salute her. May she rest in peace.